You're watching the Bama Insider Daily Recruiting Update with Andrew Bone. My name is Trey Andy. We thank you for being here, everybody. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Andrew, last weekend was a really big one in recruiting. We talked about some big commitments this week and everything else, but this weekend is another huge one. When it comes to recruiting, talk about some of the guys coming into town. I know there's 11 of them, that are really big time here, and a lot of other guys that going to be definitely in Alabama's watch this weekend. But kind of get into it here. How you doing, and what's this weekend have in store?
Well, it's crazy. We're finally at this last weekend of June. It's been a pretty crazy month with all the visitors. Whether it was kids coming in for officials, kids coming in for unofficials. There was a 7-on-7 camp, a cookout, O-line, D-line camp, and there's been several high school prospect camps. So it's been a lot going on. And if you've been following us at BamaInsider.com, you've seen all the content that we've produced. We've done so many video updates as well, but a lot of great content, a lot of great interviews on BamaInsider.com, daily recruiting nuggets, stuff like that. So if you haven't had a chance to visit all of if you haven't had a chance to visit our site yet, please go on there, check it out, check out all the content, because we have an absolute ton, and we're gonna have a ton this weekend. There's a lot going on. We have our key storylines to follow this weekend. Daily nuggets on all the official visitors. So there's a lot of great content that's going to be coming out, especially after this weekend. It's been just a great month so far. I know it hasn't been, for Alabama fans want to see commitments, every single day, but it's not going to happen. We knew that wasn't going to happen this month. They ended up getting 2 commitments this month in this 2022 recruiting class. And, Le'Veon Moss, who committed the first weekend of June after his official visit, and then you have Omari Abor, who committed to Alabama on Thursday after shining at Tide's camp earlier this week. So I think Alabama fans should be excited about those 2 guys. It's still kind of a situation where kids are still visiting. They're still trying to get these last-minute trips in. A lot of them are taking their 5th and final official visit this weekend. So then probably going to announce decisions in July, August, right before their senior season. So I think we're going to see a big slew of commitments happen over the course of the next 2 months. Didn't see a ton this month, and this is not just for Alabama. This is for schools all across the board. And I think a lot of fans were hoping that, their school, they were going to get all these commitments this month because visits were finally going to open up. But like I said, you had to be mindful of these kids. They're finally taking their visits. They're finally stepping foot on these college campuses, seeing everything for the first time. They weren't, most of them weren't going to go to 1 school or 2 schools and then make a decision. They were going to go to all 5, take all 5 of their official visits. Now, some of them not taking official visits a month. They're just taking a bunch of unofficial visits. So all these guys are taking their visits, enjoying the process, and then hopefully making a decision over the course of the next couple months. But just because there's only 8 commitments on Alabama's recruiting board right now, don't be upset about that. The commitments are going to come. Just be patient. Last year was a little different because it was a really slow start, and then we saw things pick up in May and June. We saw a ton of commitments happen. A lot of those commitments happened because kids knew they weren't taking visits. They weren't going to be able to visit colleges throughout the summer. So they went ahead and made their decisions before their senior season. So that was kind of the big reason why we saw a lot of commitments last summer in May and June, and why we're not really seeing a lot of commitments this month. But wait till July, wait till August. We'll start seeing a lot more commitments pop. Now, Terrance Brooks, 4-star defensive back in the Rivals 100. I think he's number 48 overall in the Rivals 100. Going to be making his trip to Tuscaloosa. Now, this is a guy who's a Texas A&M legacy. Chet Brooks, his father, a star for the Aggies, and played in the NFL, and definitely somebody that Alabama really wants as a part of its recruiting class. Now, in my opinion, I think Alabama, even though he's a Texas A&M Texas A&M legacy, I think Alabama's got a great chance to land his commitment. So watch for Terrance Brooks very closely this week. I think he's got a great chance to potentially be a part of Alabama's class, and I certainly think that Alabama could really hit a home run with these 2 guys from the state of Texas. We saw 7 guys from the state of Texas sign with Alabama in the 2021 recruiting class. Can they do it again? Can they get 3-4 guys from the state of Texas? They're certainly shooting for a couple right there in those 2 defensive backs. And Jake Pope, out of Buford High School over in Georgia. We hadn't talked a ton about Jake Pope before. He's at one of the top high school programs in the state of Georgia, in Buford, and certainly a guy that Alabama has recruited, and certainly somebody that they like a lot. He's a safety, 6'1", about 180 pounds. Has taken some visits this month: Ohio State, Texas, and North Carolina. So he gets into Tuscaloosa this weekend. We'll see how the visit goes for him, but definitely one of the best athletes in the state of Georgia.
Love talking about defensive backs. Jake Pope, a guy that we have been able to talk about a little bit more here recently. We'll follow those three as well. Walter Nolen coming back into town this weekend. He's another 5-star defensive end. It's an unofficial visit this weekend, though. What do we need to know about this trip? Alabama also hosting a few other top D, really not D ends, just D linemen in general this weekend. Bear Alexander, Omari Abor, just to name a couple. Talk about those guys as well and kind of what we expect out of these visits.
Well, Nolen was actually in town this week. He's not coming in this weekend. He was in town on Tuesday, arrived on Tuesday, so visited Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He arrived on Wednesday, so visited Wednesday, Thursday, and left this morning on Friday morning, going over to Georgia this weekend. Walter Nolen, 5-star defensive lineman from the state of Tennessee. there was some talk that he was potentially on the verge of committing to Florida. A few weekends ago, after his official visit down there, and he even tweeted that his recruitment was shut down, that he wasn't going to take any more visits, that he knew where he was going to go, and then all of a sudden decided to hold off, take some more visits. Has taken some trips to Georgia, visited Michigan, LSU. These are all schools that are programs that he likes, and now he gets a trip to Tuscaloosa midweek and spent a few days at Alabama. Heard the visit went really well. Had a chance to really spend a lot of time with Coach Freddie Roach, Coach Pete Golden, and spent some good time with Nick Saban. So I think with Walter Nolen, the biggest thing is he's not going to make a decision, in my opinion, anytime soon. I think he's going to enjoy this process. I think he got kind of caught up in the moment when he went on that trip to Florida. Now, in my opinion, there might be a chance that he commits before the season, but I also don't think his recruitment is going to be over anytime soon. I think his recruitment is going to be over when he signs, because even if he commits, schools are going to be coming after him nonstop. They're still going to be recruiting him. He's still going to take his official visits. He's still going to enjoy the process. So even if he commits, I just don't see his recruitment being over anytime soon. But I think he had a great visit to Alabama. He's going over to Georgia this weekend, and we'll kind of see where things go from there. But like I said, I think Alabama certainly made up some ground with him. So Alabama's going to have 3 official visitors on campus on the defensive line this weekend. First, Bear Alexander out of Texas, former Georgia commitment. The Big Bear Alexander visiting Tuscaloosa. And, I'm really intrigued to see kind of, where things go with Alabama and Alexander. We knew Alabama was in it prior to his commitment to Georgia. Will they potentially get more involved after this weekend? We'll kind of have to wait and see. Does Alabama, move up, potentially into that top 2, top 3 for Alexander after his weekend trip to Alabama. They're also going to have Anthony Lucas in town this weekend. Anthony Lucas, defensive lineman from Arizona, Scottsdale. Alabama played in Scottsdale a few years ago. 6'5", 285 pounds. Big old defensive end. Definitely somebody that Alabama's intrigued with. Number 1 player in the state of Arizona. They're still looking for some defensive linemen in this recruiting class. 3, maybe even 4 more defensive linemen. They have 2 commitments right now, Jaheim Otis and Walter Baugh. But this is a position that they're still trying to get some more guys in on. So Anthony Lucas, certainly somebody that they really like a lot, and they're going to kind of see where they stand and after this weekend with Lucas. And then the third defensive lineman that's going to visit Tuscaloosa this weekend is Omari Abor out of Duncanville High School in Texas. Alabama signed his teammate last year in Kendrick Blackshire, one of the most physically impressive linemen that you'll ever see, or linebackers that you'll ever see. So now they get his teammate Omari Abor in town. Rivals 100 defensive lineman. Definitely somebody that Alabama has been recruiting heavily for a long time. There's some thought that Oklahoma's in the driver's seat. I know he likes Ohio State as well, but Alabama gets him on campus this weekend and kind of sees, where he kind of fits in, and he'll kind of see what all he likes about Alabama. But three big defensive linemen coming into Tuscaloosa this week after Walter Nolen spent the last couple of days in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, some big prospects there. It'd be great if Alabama could add at least a couple more of them. They had the #1 offensive line class in the country last year, one of the best they've had in a long time. They don't have any signed up right now. Do you see that changing? Got a couple coming in this weekend. Tyler Booker, one of them, Bear Alexander. Like you just mentioned as well, it's on the defensive side. Dayne Shor on the offensive side. Where do things stand with those guys? And do you see any offensive linemen committing to this class?
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly going to get some offensive linemen. I'm still kind of waiting to see, who's that going to be. They've had some big offensive linemen in Tuscaloosa over the course of the last month, including Zach Rice from Virginia, who visited last weekend. Elijah Pritchett from Georgia. Those are two guys who are really high on Alabama. I certainly think that they remain still involved heavily with Jake Taylor, who visited Tuscaloosa back in early June, and now they're going to get a couple more linemen on campus this weekend. Dayne Shor out of Georgia suffered a shoulder injury during his early part of his junior season. I think it was right before his junior season, like in the preseason. So he missed his entire season, was at IMG Academy. So he's been kind of rehabbing from that, hasn't really been able to work out or do anything. So Alabama's going to get him on campus this weekend, probably check him out, try to look at his shoulder, making sure everything's back to 100%. But he's certainly somebody that they're interested in, but also need to check him out just a little bit more just to make sure that everything's right with him. But he, like I said, he was at IMG last year, then transferred back to his hometown in Alpharetta. I think it was back in January. But one of the big offensive linemen that's going to be on campus this weekend is Tyler Booker out of IMG Academy. This is a guy who has a great relationship with Doug Marrone. Obviously, Alabama has recruited IMG Academy extremely well over the last several years. Including at the offensive line position. They signed 5-star J.C. Latham last year and signed 5-star Evan Neal a few years ago. And we've seen the success that they've had, with IMG players. Evan Neal potentially I don't want to say potentially a first-round draft pick this upcoming year. And now you get Tyler Booker, coming into town, is going to spend time with, guys like J.C. Latham, guys like Evan Neal, a lot of other players that are going to be on the team. So big weekend for him. I think, Georgia, Florida, probably, after he's taken those visits this month, probably in the lead, but now he gets into Tuscaloosa, sees everything for the first time, gets on campus, spends time with the coaching staff. He's around and is around the entire program. So big weekend for him. This is a weekend that Alabama could potentially move to the front for Tyler Booker, and certainly a big position of need. I mean, they're certainly wanting to get 3 or 4 offensive linemen in this class. They don't have any right now. So can they potentially close the deal with Tyler Booker this weekend? We'll have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. It would be another big offensive lineman to get. They don't have any right now. So it would be the first of what would look to be another big offensive line group. Ty Simpson, a kid that has been really just a billboard for this university since he committed. He's gotten other players to commit as well. He is making his official visit this weekend. How important is it that he's going to be on campus around these other top recruits, kind of, working to maybe swing some to Alabama's way as well?
Yeah, so Ty's going to take his official visit. He's the only Alabama commitment that's going to be in town for an official visit. Now, Emmanuel Henderson also expected to be back in town. Emmanuel's been in town every weekend, so he'll be in town on an unofficial visit. Ty's coming in for an official event in Tuscaloosa also at least once every week this summer. This is certainly a big visit weekend for Alabama. He wants to be around, these guys. He wants to be around JTT. He wants to be around, Bear Alexander, Denver Harris, Terrance Brooks, Tyler Booker, Nicholas Singleton. I mean, these are a lot of guys that that are coming into town this weekend. Evan Stewart, one of the best wide receivers in the country, going to be in Tuscaloosa on Friday. Alabama certainly is trying to get some elite receivers in this class to go along with Ty Simpson. They don't have any wide receiver commitments just yet. Now, I know, Omari Abor, a lot of people will look at him and say, oh, well, he worked out at receiver. Well, he's still 6'4", 228 pounds. The chances of him being a wide receiver at Alabama, I'm just not sure about that. I think tight end, maybe outside linebacker, defensive end, probably a little bit better. So you're trying to get, these elite wide receivers on board, like an Evan Stewart, like a Barian Brown. So you're getting, getting somebody like Evan Stewart on campus for at least a day, very huge for an unofficial visit. Ty's going to be around him. Ty's going to, try to, really talk Alabama up. I mean, and, another athlete that we didn't mention that's coming in for an official visit that I'm really intrigued about is Nicholas Singleton. He's a four-star running back from Philadelphia, going to be making an official this weekend. Alabama has two running back commitments in Le'Veon Moss and Emmanuel Henderson. Le'Veon Moss, as we've kind of seen since his commitment to Alabama, has taken trips to TCU, has taken trips to Texas A&M, Ole Miss. How solid is his commitment? Alabama still bringing in other running backs. We saw some other running backs who visited Alabama last weekend, Jamarion Miller, Trevor Etienne, who both took unofficials. You also had Branson Robinson, who was in Tuscaloosa last weekend for an official visit. And now they're bringing in Nicholas Singleton for an official. So clearly Alabama is still in the running back market. They may not necessarily have a spot right now, but they're keeping the door open, and they're certainly interested in some big name running backs. And they're, some of their guys are still out there shopping. And guess what? Alabama's still shopping as well. So, Nicholas Singleton coming in for an official this weekend. I don't know what's really going to happen at the running back position just yet, just because, like I said, two running back commitments right now, but Moss still taking those trips. Can Alabama find a spot in this class for another running back? Nicholas Singleton is certainly one of those guys that they really like a lot, and he's going to come in for this official this weekend, and they'll kind of go from there.
It'll be fun to watch. It's so interesting to follow these recruits after they make, a verbal commitment. They do go and check out other schools and, test the waters still. Nicholas Singleton could come in and, maybe take a spot away from a Le'Veon Moss or something like that, depending on what these guys decide to do. But all good stuff this morning. Andrew, your final thoughts before another massive weekend in Tuscaloosa?
Well, just a lot of excitement. I mean, this is, like you said, the final weekend of June. Staff's going to have some time off. I think they're going to have about 4 weeks off after this weekend to kind of relax, recharge the batteries a little bit. I think Alabama's going to have a little recruiting event at the end of July, a little cookout like they had this past week. I certainly think this is a great opportunity for Alabama to really open up the eyes of a lot of kids that are coming into town this weekend and see if they can potentially close the door with JT Tuilamola or Denver Harris or Terrance Brooks, Tyler Booker. I mean, these are some guys that I feel like are very high on Alabama. Alabama just has to kind of seal the deal. So it's a big weekend. We're going to have a lot of content, like I said, on BamaInsider.com. We have our big recruiting feature on the weekend currently up on the site. We have our weekend recruiting thread currently going on right now. So stay tuned. Why is the recruiting thread? Because that's where all the nuggets, all the information from the weekend, all the videos that you see with these kids that are visiting throughout the weekend, whether they're out at the stadium or in their locker rooms or just touring around campus. We're putting those videos up on Bama Insider on that recruiting thread, all the photos and any good nuggets throughout the weekend. We'll have it all on that Bama Insider weekend recruiting thread.
Guys, go check it out. For the latest updates, of course, you can hit our social media as well. That's just at Bama Insider on Twitter. You can see videos of guys coming in this weekend, seeing what they're getting to see with their visits. Head to BamaInsider.com as well. Like Andrew said, hit that recruiting tab. There's so much out there. Here's our commitment list right here. Just kind of talking about where these guys stand and who has committed, the stars, everything else. Check out the rest of the YouTube page as well. We got videos breaking down these recruits, some interviews with them as well. More shows like this where we talk about some of the recruits coming into town and we cover the world of Alabama football. For Andrew Bone, my name is Trey Ennedy. This has been another Bama Insider daily recruiting update. This weekend looks to be just as big as the previous one. Let's see if the commitments come this time. For more guys, again, check out BamaInsider.com. Hit that like button for me and subscribe to the channel for more coverage just like this. Have a great week, everybody. Roll Tide.